Sir hasn't joined yet. Let's see. Okay.
Okay. So, ma'am, do we go ahead with the session?
I think we are live now. We can start, Neelam?
Ma'am, just wait for a second.
Okay.
Taking some time. Just give me a few minutes. Yes, ma'am. Now we can start.
Okay. A very good afternoon to each one of all present here. This is indeed a very warm afternoon, and we, on behalf of Maharaja Agrisen Institute of Management Studies, I welcome all of you to the Module 8 of this online certificate course. We once again, as a distinguished guest today, we have Professor Pramod Kumar Mehra, who is a celebrated academician and a professor of English language at the School of Humanities at the Indira Gandhi National Open University in New Delhi. Just a brief about Sir's bio and his accomplishments. So, prestigious Australian
Kriti, you are not audible. Kriti? She's joining again. शिल्पा मैम प्लीज आप स्टार्ट करिए, अनम्यूट करिए, प्लीज अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ. शिल्पा मैम, यू आर म्यूट.
Okay, yes. Now I can, ma'am. Okay, I think, sorry for that inconvenience. I'm going to continue to read the profile of our resource person today. Just give me a minute. Okay, we are very pleased to have with us Professor Dr. Pramod Kumar Mehra, Professor of English in the School of Humanities, Indira Gandhi National Open University, IGNOU. Professor Pramod Kumar Mehra is Masters, PGDT, PGDDE, and PhD in English, and is a Professor of English in the School of Humanities, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. He has authored 6 books centering on literature, criticism, and translation. He has undertaken serious research work on gender studies from an inter and transdisciplinary perspective. And today he would be speaking on gender intersection, caste, class, and gender violence in India. I warmly extend a very warm welcome to Professor Mehra, and I request him to please take over the session. Professor Mehra. Sir. Sir, are we audible,
yes.
Sir? Yes, sir.
Yeah, maybe today it is a bit of hassle, in managing the network. Yeah. So I hope my voice is audible to all of you.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
May I begin with a very sincere sense of appreciation for all of you, the way you are handling this program and the kind of the overall structure. And I'm full of appreciation, admiration, the way it is curated, and all the team members. Shweta ji, you are doing great job. And just to replug our discussion to what we were discussing last time, I thought that we were trying to make a sense of how there is a problem, how there is a skewness, how there is an issue of misrepresentation, lack of representation, maybe sometimes gross sense of neglect as far as gender representation in media is concerned. We looked at figures, we looked at issues, problems, challenges, and some strategies regarding overcoming those. And I think that when we were looking at that, we realized that there are issues. And there was a time, I hope you remember that, like when we were looking at it, we talked about one issue where that like some issues gain very big limelight, very central position, central space, but then some issues remain neglected, remain kind of overshadowed, and there is a problem. And I think that what we are going to discuss today, what we are going to take up today is kind of to sharpen our understanding, to kind of look at the situation with a magnifying lens. And like in academics, when we discuss something, we don't discuss it in smaller issues, shapes, dimensions. No, we need to look at it in its entirety, in its the full, like as a 360-degree view of the situation. So I think that the topic that has been assigned to me, and I think we'll be discussing intersectionality today, caste, class, gender perspectives. I think that is equally important, and that will help us to develop that understanding, what we were discussing last time. I thought that this can be understood with various names. When we look at this term, it looks a little more Western, little more like alien also. But I see that interlocking, where we can say intersections, But when we look at it in the sense, I'll share this screen. So we will take it up, and let me talk through about this in some. Yes. Do you see something? Do you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm trying to make it a full screen, so just give me a second. So we are discussing gender intersection, caste, class, and violence. Okay. Very and this is 8th module. We are going to talk about what is gender intersection. Can we take into account major debates and arguments, some textual criticism, some theories, and caste, class, and gender violence in India. Again, this is important, as a build up to this. I think that, we'll look at, is it the only emancipatory domain available? Is it the panacea, or is it a problem? We'll look at this. We'll also look at the socio-cultural economic dimensions involved, and interconnectivity, interconnectedness of gender, class, and caste, media, gender studies, and globalization. Is there a way forward? We are going to probe ourselves, probe into this domain, and with not a view to just kind of explore the problem, but with a perspective to find the solution, with the idea to suggest a way forward, to kind of find something. I think there's a bit of paradox. What is that paradox? I'm saying that intersectionality and the recognition and confrontation in our privileges can make us better people with better lives. And there is a theory behind the culture of victimhood. It's called intersectionality. This theory posits that racism, sexism, classism, ableism are interconnected, overlapping, and mutually reinforcing. Together, they form a matrix of oppression. I'm basically saying that intersectionality builds a coalition by getting different minority groups to recognize. In theory, intersectionality builds a coalition in terms of caste, class, gender, race. I mean, you must have understood. I mean, when I'm saying that it is a bit of a paradox, let me talk to you about the historical overview. The person, there are people who are saying that, Crenshaw was not the first person. This problem, this issue, the seriousness of the point of view was there in circulation for a long, long time. But from the academic point of view, from the clinical, if we look at chronological point of view, we find that this professor law in US raised this point for the first time. I'm going to discuss as to how, this term was coined. It was a very obscure legal concept before it opened up the newer ways of imagining. Crenshaw, this lady professor, talked about this in her very important write-up, Demarginalizing the Intersection of Caste and Race. And we have to we have to look at it like how the present notion of gender justice that we are looking at, when we were looking at in the first interaction between us, that, this misrepresentation issue, it is called that it is a trickle-down approach to justice. It is not that through the mainstream and margin approach, when we look at it, we will be able to get to a kind of justice for all situations. Crenshaw, when she talks about the idea of intersectionality, she talks about a framing problem. Now, what is a framing problem? She says that framing is basically like in terms of like when you don't have a name for a problem, when you don't have a kind of complete, clear, vivid visualization of a problem, you can never solve it. So she says that there are certain narratives which are there on the screen, but you will never be able to kind of interpret that in a most concrete way. And that will be a problem. I mean, this case that you find where you have, it was against, General Motors and, some group of people, Dick Griffin Reed. So these group of women, Black women, they approached the court of law and they raised a point that in their promotion, in their elevation to, say, senior positions, they were victimized, they were discriminated, and the promotional avenue which were available for other women were not created for them. And this went to court of law, and the judicial officer there, he said that perhaps, this issue of race and class cannot be clubbed together. And he kind of judged against them. So when Crenshaw, our intersectionality expert, was probing, was looking at the legal debates, it was found out that there was a problem which needs to be understood. How will you understand this when this issue of marginality in terms of gender and then race gets interlocked, gets interconnected, gets kind of in a way overlapped also. This is an issue that we need to understand. So this case, you can always read up on this as to how there was a rigorous debate. The women, Black women employees gave sufficient data as to how there is, we talk about it in a big way. We talked about, as a glass ceiling in our last thing. Like there's a glass ceiling, but it's, if you look at it, if you look at intersectionality, you can say there are glasses within glasses. So there are margins within margins. So this is something that I find very important. And you find that intersectionality approach was a built up on this, was a kind of outcome of this. I'll talk about like statutory provisions and like, if I, when I'm saying trickle down approach to justice, I'm saying that this is like in a country like India, in a country where we, India is a microcosm of the whole world, you can say whole universe, and where we find that, all, you can say maddening diversity exists. And like we have a constitution, which in the preamble, we say that we, the people of India, we talk about equality, not only in the economic sense, but socio-cultural and in all, we, on the eve of our independence, we declared that there will be a situation when no one will be discriminated on the basis of the caste, class, gender, racial issues. So, and then, you can say there was, some benefits of citizenship were offered during that time. I find that the present system of looking at it as far as, men versus women, mainstream versus marginal sections, and there is an issue. And when we look at in the Indian context from the gender point of view, we find that there is a point where we need to look at the women question from the intersectional perspective, and that is that womanhood is not a completely homogeneous domain. It has layers, it has complex layers, and it has kind of division and subdivisions which need to be understood. And when we are talking about it in the sense of intersectionality, yes, this can come to our help. I tell you that, there is a strong feminism movement, started like ever since Simone de Beauvoir said that a woman is not born, a woman is made into a woman in 1948 in her narrative, the second sex, she pointed out. There was a huge movement. By 70s, you find that there is a kind of public outrage in public movement also as far as women rights and everything else is concerned. But gradually, I mean, today, if you look at it, you find that there are major issues and complications. If you say, some people say that now, like there is, if you wish to study the women's movement in India, you can say there is one bourgeois feminism and then there's a people's movement. Bourgeois feminism is like where people get together, they talk about, good kind of the progress women have made, how there are big projects, big corporate social responsibility. Under CSR, there is a huge funding available. They look at some women figures who have done great advancement. But then there is a other side when you look at, particularly from the Dalit perspective, when you look at it, when you find that there are people who are saying that feminism in India does not exist and there is no feminist movement. Why is that? Like if you find that there are, number of, literary accounts. I teach in a literature department, and last 10 years, I tell you, number of narratives in the form of autobiographies and memoirs have come, which have revealed that the what goes in the name of feminist movement in India does not take into account all the possible dimensions, and the major criticism comes from, like, you can say the caste and caste and religious overlapping. You will find that when it comes to the issue of some women, like, that in that sense, we have the most emancipatory provisions, but people are still saying that there is scope to be covered. And what is that? Like, when I'm discussing, so it's the framing problem. I mean, I'm saying that, if we look at it like from the statutory provisions, what do we have? Article 243D enables the reserved seats for the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes in every panchayat, not less than 1/3 of the total number of seats reserved for women belonging to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. So this is like, I'm saying that intersectionality operates as both observance and analysis of power imbalances, and the tool by which those power imbalances could be eliminated together. So I like, and we have, when we are talking about Dalits, I think it is important if I give you a sense of, what is this term? Like, the term Dalithood is a bit complex. I mean, it has come to mean that person belonging to a socially marginalized. But if you read their literature, if you read into the formation of this social movement, and if particularly in the 50s and 60s, when they talked about kind of carving out an autonomous, self-sufficient identity, and then this caste-based social response, was addressed. And so this term, when the term was coined, what does this meant right in the beginning? This Dalit was basically a kind of umbrella term, not only for the people who are marginalized and discriminated on the basis of a person's birth in a particular family, but it was on the basis of marginalized social position. If you look at it, the Dalit Panthers movement document, you find that they included blacks, they included women. They said that in the Indian context, every woman is half Dalit. So in the domain of Dalit, they included all religious minorities. So I think it was much more emancipatory. And the way, in the last 20, 30 years, it has come to be, highly, reduced to kind of very, which is not special, which is not how it should be. We need to have an approach where we can look at all marginalized people, not from one particular category. So I thought, when I'm discussing it with you, I thought that we could develop the intersectional approach, from the Indian perspective, and the Dalit approach could come in there. I hope you understand me here. I'm trying to say that intersectional approach, talks about that there are, overlappings, there are, multiple categories of oppression and discrimination, and we need to have a combined frame. I'm saying that, that there has been a social movement in India which talked about a kind of framework which could bring in, space which could bring in all domesticated categories under one umbrella, and we could treat it in some way. So, but it has not succeeded. I would want you to look at how the Dalit term evolved and how could it develop. But it is because of so many reasons, we don't have much of time to go into each of those. But I'm saying that when we look at this term, there is a thing. And for example, like there's a huge criticism also happening to intersectionality also. But we need to look at how we need to have a kind of indigenized way to look at solutions. So when we are looking at it, I'm saying that yes, caste-based atrocities, like, what is that? Like, do you think that a Dalit woman can be classified, can be categorized in the same space where ordinary women, women in general are there? So are these atrocities because of the lukewarm response? There's huge data. I mean, if you find, number of problems that Dalit women are facing is a horrible state of affair. I mean, I'll refer to some of the figures and statistics in the due course. I mean, I'm saying that the sexual violence against Dalit women are not the ugly face of crime against women in society. It intertwined in the caste oppression hierarchy where women became the target. It is a horrifying combination of two evils manifesting in the form of caste and gender identity. Yes. So what is like, why, like, I mean, I'll give you an instance where it became very vivid to our imagination as to how to understand it. Dalit women. The Hathras case is not the first brutal crime against Dalit women in Uttar Pradesh. In May 2014, 2 Dalit teenage girls were allegedly kidnapped, gang raped, and hanged from a tree in Badayu. In that case, 5 women, including 2 policemen, were accused of the crime. I'm saying that, like, do you remember this case? Do you remember that, in Hathras, what happened? Do you have some memories? And if I mean, memories not in the sense, I mean, haunting kind of, knock at your in your memorial landscape. I find that what Crenshaw was saying, that in terms of intersectionality, that there is a framing problem. like we will never be able to memorize, will never be able to locate ourselves in a domain if there is not much kind of public view of that situation. Why I'm discussing Hathras case? Because, you know, I think that you must have seen this film. I think Hathras became such a point of controversy that Anubhav Sinha made a movie on this, and it was called Article 15. Article 15 talked about equality, right to equality, and talks about constitutional provisions. But I see a lot of scope, lot of relevance for our discussion, because, you know, the women, the people, the tortured entities there were Dalit women, were like, and you find you when I'm saying that, you know, they were gang raped, and you know, there were two policemen were also there who were involved in that problem. So what I'm saying that in that problem, you know, why they were put to that kind of treatment, because these young girls wanted a raise in their agriculture farm labor. That is something very, very tormenting. I find that, you know, and some people, I don't know how far that is true. They wanted a raise of about, you know, 3 rupees in their, you know, kind of daily wage. So when we talk about minimum wages in our labor law classes, when we talk about, you know, right to dignity, right to life, right to have choices, right to free speech, there is a big thing that when you look at it, that in the biggest state, there are many references in almost every state where you find that if women say something, there will be more problem. They will be attacked, they will be killed, they will be assaulted, and the problems just refuse to go away. So in this sense, like when we are saying that Hathras case, the two teenage girls were attacked, what is the problem? I mean, I'm taking you, because we have to look at the legal question, and the kind of cases that I'm listing before you: Bhavri Devi case, Satish Mehta case versus Delhi administration, and another Suman Rani, where you have Prem Chand and another, and state of Haryana, and R Chitra. These are the 4 cases which you can, the Hathras case couldn't go to a court of law in that sense, in a big way. But if you look at Bhavri Devi, Satish Mehra, Suman Rani, and R Chitra, you will find that there's a big issue. And what I'm trying to say that in this, I'll give you a brief instance, little elaboration on what happened in Bhavri Devi case. Bhavri Devi it belongs to the state of Rajasthan, where this lady was involved in NGO group activities, and she was it was a very popular campaign, Sathin. She was acting like a Sathin, and they were trying to stop the child marriages. And she went to a marriage function where a child, 2 children were getting married, and then she tried to stop them. When they didn't stop, she called the police, and then when this police was called and the marriage program was cancelled, the family of the girl, the family of those children, they kind of, as a sense of revenge, as in a way to teach her some lesson, they got together, and it led to a gang rape of Bhavri Devi. It is a fact. It is another thing that the marriage still took place as a kind of private affair. But then you find that Bhavri Devi, because she was, in some way a part of an NGO framework, her case was reported. And do you know what was the first reaction? This lady belonged to a kind of a lower section in the social hierarchy. You may call her a Dalit. And in Rajasthan, it is about like scheduled tribes. Where at the first level in the district court, it was pointed out that this is not possible. How can upper caste men could even touch that lady? So the appeal was not entertained in that sense. So you can see how when you go to a court of law and when you have such major you can say prejudices working, when you have such kind of very negative social stereotyping taking place, it is very difficult to find a solution to this. So what we are discussing today in terms of intersectionality makes sense. We need to kind of look at, do we connect all the dots in terms of our endeavor to locate justice, locate kind of justice for all. So when we are looking at Bhavri Devi, I mean, if I may, there are other cases, Art Chitra, and then Sumitra Devi, you find that there's a woman kind of, again, belonging to a socially marginalized, she goes against her husband, and then there is a case the husband had assaulted the child in the family, the daughter. So she goes against the husband and reports it in the police station, and it goes to court of law. In the court also, after a long time, it was decided that perhaps this lady is seeking revenge. How can a father be so brutal to the daughter? And again, that is the stereotyping issue. You find that in Art Chitra in Tamil Nadu, this how, even after so many years, she was not given any kind of, can say any hearing, any understanding, or justice is a difficult proposition in such cases. So you find that there has been number of cases where you will find that all those women facing discrimination, facing exploitation, facing difficulty will not find any rescue in the police stations and in the court of law and elsewhere. We will discuss this when we look at, there's a Say Her Name campaign, in terms of intersectionality. I'm saying, you may look at these cases, Bhavri Devi, Satish Mehra, Suman Rani. I find that it is because of the lack of understanding of the overlapping of various socio-cultural identities that sometimes come together and stop the issue. So what is intersectional mass movement? There has to be a point of time when we look at mass movement where to fundamentally shift values, where we address root structures and system and not just a specific issue. This is not I think Say Her Name was a big campaign when this our law professor Kensha talked about this, and she said that how we will in terms of Afro-American fight for justice, you will still remember George Floyd. I mean, we find that in last year in the I think America was facing a big thing, but Americans came out in such big number as far as Black Lives Matter campaign is concerned. But then she says that there are so many Black women also who are put to similar kind of problems, similar kind of assault. They are killed irrespective of their age. You will find a 10-year-old girl and then an 80-year-old Black women. So, you know, she says, say her name campaign. You'll read about it. There's a plethora of material, and you will be able to see how that framing problem, how that our mental landscape sometimes, you know, kind of does not allocate any space to that, and there is a big issue. If there is no name in our mind, how will we remember that? If you don't remember that, how will you find that issue? So I'm saying that like, you know, misrepresentation issue, like how we will be celebrating, like we will be looking at you know, kind of like 75 years of our Indian independence. There will be a big movement, and we will be looking at what we have achieved, what we have not, what we you know, need to work more for. So this is an issue, I think. And when we are looking at this, that there is a big problem that this caste and gender intermix and interlocking we are facing. It is a big issue. What is that? No place for Dalit and tribal girls, you know. I mean, NCRB, you know, Crime Bureau data saying there are several factors behind this rise in barbaric crime, social tension, economic disparity, and caste conflicts, unregulated access to sexual and violent content. For avenging past animosity, the brutality goes up. So if two communities fight within caste, you will find that if there is an issue, women will be, you know, on the receiving end. If I may, like, you know, read it for you, in National Crime Record Bureau data, 2019 states that 32,033 rapes, 32,033 rapes, my dear friends, registered that year, and about 11% for Dalits. In other words, you know, 10 Dalit women were raped every day in India. 10 women were raped every day in India. And this data shows that between 2009 and 2009, number of reported cases dropped marginally by 5%. So I'm saying that this is a big issue we need to kind of confront. You know, what is, like, you know, what are the, like, you know, forms and frequency of violence? You know, there's a big, you know, kind of study taking place. Whatever, like, you know, it can be physical assault, verbal abuse, sexual harassment, assault, rape, sexual exploitation, forced prostitution, kidnapping, abduction, forced incarceration, and medical negligence. So you can see that there are various forms. When we are looking at it from an intersectional perspective, we need to look at all the forms and frequencies. You find that in total, 71.2% of Dalit women in the study express their feelings of helplessness to stop the violence, while 60.4% indicated that atmosphere of constant fear in which they carry on with their daily lives. Feelings of depression or low self-esteem and shame are also marked out the lives of 60% of women, while 24 women had tried to commit suicide because of the violence that they endured. When I'm saying this, when I'm talking about this data, and when I'm looking at, you know, the kind of 21st century scenario where 75th year of our independence, so many legal remedies, so many legal provisions, so much of, you know, like, you know, academic framework that we have, I'm like finding it very difficult to accommodate in my mind why there is no real public outcry against this. The issue is this. So I'm saying, when we are trying to understand intersectionality, I think we need to understand that there is a problem of frame. Like, you know, if I, you know, in terms of intersectionality, when we are discussing, the Nirbhaya case becomes a very, you can say, you know, a fitting example. Like, when we look at this, what happened, you know, to this girl, you know, like, every situation in terms of its position, in terms of its location, is the person concerned his or her social position, the geographical position. No, so like if you may just briefly discuss, like when when those two friends, including Nirbhaya, when they were coming back to their homes after watching a film in Sake, and then they boarded the bus. I think it is about, like, what caused that major issue, what caused a national and international sense of outrage against that. I think that it was because the girl was, like, in a way, middle class, educated. The boy, everyone could relate to that. And it happened in Delhi. And she was a college going person, young person. And then I think everything, and the socio-political situation at that time, you can say a political influence at that time, Aam Aadmi Party played an important role in kind of taking it to the masses. There was huge protest. And I am saying that it became that important. It became that significant, and it became a watershed movement, primarily because that there were so many factors to that. And when we are saying that in the NCRB data, there are 32,000 people, like, and that is again, not all the reporting. It is basically huge under-reporting is there. So why Nirbhaya is there and the other cases are not there in consideration? Why do we not, So if I may, like, today, for example, when we are discussing it, if I say her name thing, and if I may show some images, you will not be able to either remember those, or you will be able to name those women who faced even like more difficult situation. Like, Nirbhaya was taken to a kind of medical attention, though she couldn't face it because she faced such big problem. And then, her case went to court of law. There was a special thing, Burma Panel Committee report, we already know. And then there was a huge, but if we do not have a framework in our mind, if we do not have a kind of name for us, if we cannot have a special, in a way, category where we, all these diverse identities, say a caste, gender, class, religious identity can come together. I think it will be difficult. We will still not be able to stop the difficulties faced by those women. So that intersectionality has to be understood. And I'm when we are looking at Nirbhaya, and we are looking at the frequency, the primary identified factor for violence relating to the issue of Dalit women, sexual or bodily integrity. This is like a big thing. On one hand, I think this is a very difficult thing also. On the one hand, there is a sense of untouchability, and then a sense of and the whole premise of untouchability is impurity, that and no one would go near that and touch that. But here you find that there is a problem, and there huge problem of assault, rape, and physical torture is there. Second frequent causal factor links to gender inequalities, natural caste hierarchy, Dalit women asserting economic resources, basic livelihoods, civil rights. What I'm trying to say that this number may further rise because of the change in our social structure, the change in our social economic political landscape, the way we find that, like, in the last 30 years, it has grown into it, but it has reached a very important point where we can say that yes, there is a representation of all the voices. But I find that in the next 10 to 20 years, this sense of assertion in the socio-political, cultural, economic space, the battle will be even more like fierce. It will be more rigorous. And I find that there will be a situation where these women may find more issues, and we need to be more alert. We need to be more kind of sensitive to that. So and like, yes, everyone has a right to fight for livelihood, civil rights, and kind of economic well-being. So I'm saying that Dalit women would appear to be extremely vulnerable to this aggression, primarily by a dominant caste system in their villages and towns. Dominant caste status often combined with patriarchal status and reinforced by a dominant class position. For example, being a landlord effectively legitimizes many dominant castes, men's exercise of powers, authority and force over Dalit women. So reading through, like if you look at the 500 Dalit women's narrative reveal that there is a pan-religious element in that, and the huge intervention is required. When we are talking about this, I mean, I'm saying that we need to kind of understand this. I'm saying that this is this is just like tip of the iceberg. When we look at it, when we try to trace the emergence of identities in the in all the corners and all the parts of our country, I think it has to flourish, and we have to kind of give that space. So this has to evolve, and intersectionality as a term, as a framework, as a lens, helps us to discover, helps us to understand that there are margins within margins. Like, for example, if I may tell you, that I talked about the Dalit women, tribal women. We in the case of tribal women, the situation is bit better. We find that in Northeast, in tribal cultures, in particularly like I know in Manipur, in Shillong, in Nagaland, there are matrilineal societies and where women conduct the whole family, and there the situation is better. But like I was reading about like denotified tribes, like about 2 crore of population in our country, and the British notified some of the tribes as denotified tribes or criminal tribes, and then they are facing problems. They cannot have a fixed place. They cannot. They have major problems in seeking employment. They and every time there will be a problem, a kind of crime in the locality. I mean, you'll find that in Maharashtra, in Odisha, and in various other parts of the country, you have problems where the problems in these denotified tribes, will face major problems. So when at a point when a crime takes place, police will hold up, all the areas where the denotified tribes people reside, and then the women there face even major, problem. And if the men their men go to jail or something, or they go in hiding after the loot, then there will be a crisis, and these women find themselves in a more vulnerable situation. So again, like there are layers within layers, there are margins within margins, and we need to kind of diversify. We need to be more alert, sensitive, and sensible to that sense of intersection, that sense of overlapping, or that sense of interlocking, and that is very important. So what do we understand from this? Effective implementation of government policies made specially for the protection of Dalits. In a number of debates we find that had been held, it was agreed that there have been policies made by governments, but Dalits are not getting benefits of all of them, and therefore proper implementation mechanism is necessary. The continuing situation of Dalits, reveals that constitutional and legal safeguard provisions to protect the human rights is is a bit of a problem, and we need to be alert about this. Government should take effective policies to remove caste-based conflicts and discrimination. There's a necessity to make some policies which removes caste-based conflicts, although some of them are present in current legislations, but there is necessary to enact strict rules. I'm reminded of one issue like last night, yesterday, we have heard, we saw that our national government has gone through a change. We find that some ministers have gone, and the new people have come in. We have found that there are 3 women also ministers have taken oaths. So there is a thing, but how many, there will be a question like maybe Anupriya Patel belongs to the OBC category, and there is a kind of recognize that is a recognition of the social presence there. But then you will find that as far as Dalit and women, tribal women is concerned, when will they get their representation? Then when will they get that sense of presence there in the mainstream, in the decision making process, in the legislative spectrum? So that is important, and we need to look at it, and we need to take that into account. As far as remedial ways are concerned, I'm saying that mass campaign programs which will spread knowledge about the rights and freedom of Dalit women, apart from government mass campaigns, programmed by media and NGOs, will add to the efforts of the government to remove caste-based violence. Again, I think that, if we go back briefly, I mean, just for a couple of minutes, when India was fighting, it was a big issue that, and there was a debate going on, like even in the 1930s, when it was visible that India may find may find independence very soon. So Gandhi and Ambedkar kind of were engaged in a dialogue that is called Gandhi Ambedkar debate, and Gandhi was saying that Gandhi was not all that agreeing to Ambedkar's idea. Ambedkar wanted a strong legal system, to protect the interest of all the marginalized section. For example, he fought for, under Hindu Code Bill, he was saying that all rights, all like property rights, all, in terms of, in terms of dignity, we need to ensure that all women are there. And then when he was talking about right to life for women, right to equality, right to speech, he was also very particular about Dalits and Dalit women. He was the one who made a kind of socio-political cultural movement for Dalit women. If you find, like, every time he was going, Gandhi, I mean, I find Gandhi's idea important in the sense that Gandhi said that a change of heart needs to take place. We cannot, particularly because this caste division, this this, and deeply entrenched social hierarchical system, it is very difficult to be defeated. So he said that a change of heart has to take place. And through this interaction, I'm trying to underline that there has, beyond the legal framework, we need to have a kind of social movement. We need to have a kind of, like at the micro level and the macro level. We find that, if there is not, intercaste marriage, if there is no, like in terms of films, for example, I would feel that, with this Article 15, I think the cause of Dalit women would get more boost than all the legislations put together. If we are all aware, if we are all alert and sensitive to this, the provision, the problems and the difficulties faced by these women, then I think we will be able to reach, will be able to kind of kind of arrive at that dream destination where we'll be able to not only empathize, but we'll be able to do something much more meaningful for these women. So I'm saying that yes, much more to remove this sense of caste-based violence, limited use or prohibition on as they work as catalysts in increasing violence. Yes, this has to be done, but this looks very difficult for the time being. Making effectiveness in policies to increase literacy rate in Dalit women. So when we are making a kind of a drive for literacy, we discussed in our last class that how many 130 million girls are out of school. So what we are saying, we need to kind of make extra efforts under Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, under all the schemes that we have. We need to spread literacy among Dalit women. Witness protection programs. In many cases, witnesses are murdered, and in order to drop cases against other class of people, in such cases, it is necessary to introduce witness protection program. Yes, that is one step. So implementation fast-track case disposal system for cases and relating to caste-based violence. Many caste-based discrimination cases are delayed for years, and due to delayed judgment by courts, women are not getting justice, and fast-track court disposal of such cases should be made necessary. This is very important. Availability of psycho-social counselor in Dalit settlement cases. This is something very important. Coordination between non-governmental organization and government. There should be cooperation, coordination between governmental department and non-governmental organizations. I'm also saying that a coordination among law enforcement agencies due to clash of jurisdiction among law enforcement agencies. Many times justice has been delayed, and coordination among them needs to be done. That, I mean, like we were discussing as to what is the problem, where do women stand? 2/3 of the women, it is a larger problem. Women account for 70% of the population living in absolute poverty. Less than $1 a day. Women make up 80% of all refugees and displaced people. So there is a need to kind of problem. We need to look at it in a very important way. So when we are saying, when we are looking at it, when we are discussing the issue of intersectionality, interlocking, overlapping, and kind of coming together of all ways of discrimination and exploitation, is it the panacea? Is it the antidote? Is it the cure for all the problems that are we facing? Or it can lead to, some people are saying that it is an important analytical tool. It is a very important way of understanding. It has opened up our new ways of imagining the problems and discrimination and exploitation, but there are also limits to its use and misuse, which has to be considered. And it has to be like, we find that, how can we solve an issue? How can we, the good and, when we are looking at it in a sense that, very emancipatory, liberatory concepts, some people say that this has always been the case, and people are always aware. It is always, discussed under jurisprudence, and judges are also aware. But sometimes when we discuss it in its narrow domains, when we look at, I hope you are aware that in terms of intersectionality, about 20 kinds of intersections are possible. Like, if you look at, kind of as far as women being white, being black, being belonging to a first world, third world, and then kind of Dalit, social background, and on the basis of poverty, on the basis of our sexual orientation, on the basis of the material condition that the family is facing. So there are n number of categories. So, I mean, if there are 20 such categories, is it possible for all of those category women to come together and launch a very cohesive, coherent public movement? Is it possible that they can come together? Yes, from the theoretical point of view, it is much more meaningful, it is easier probing their problems. Huh? But like some people argue that it is an issue, and it has, when we look at, we have managed to achieve all the success in the gender context, because we saw that this is, one half of the entire population. But if we kind of subdivide, and then create, multiple categories, it will be then difficult to arrive at a unified social identity, and that may weaken the entire kind of social formation, which is, required to, which is necessary for larger kind of social change, to bring about a change in the entire social situation. So I'm saying that, yes, it is a problem. It is that we need to kind of take a call on this. I feel that, when it may look like, that it is an issue, that it is it can be, some people just, refuse to, take note of this approach. But I feel, in my understanding, and we may discuss it even further, but I feel that this intersectional approach has brought together newer perspective, newer ways of understanding of caste, class, gender, race, and ethnicity, and many more, overlapping of categories of oppression and discrimination. And I think this is very important. Of course, there is a possibility of some kind of dilution, but then if you are not aware, sensitized of this, I think it will be major problem. And this the kind of it is required to take the present socio-cultural awareness that we have in the present time, to take it to the next level. Like, in terms of leadership, for example, if we have to make the women's movement successful in our country, we need to give leadership. We need to give a more definite role to Dalit women, to tribal women, to women belonging to the denotified tribes, and all other all other categories that we can refer to, and we can bring in. So this is very important, and I'm all the more like when we look at this intersectional approach. I mean, for example, in the if there is there's a partition literature we have, in which you have you have there was a film also recently on the short story writer, the poet. I'm and this person wrote about this the problem of women from both sides. So at the time of partition, the problems faced by women because of different religious backgrounds, that was also a problem. So when we are discussing intersectionality, we need to also understand that and that has not been understood, that has not been accounted for in a big way, and perhaps we have this we have kind of conveniently decided to be silent about that. I think that when we have intersectional approach, when we have this sense of ability, I would say, this awareness, sensitivity and sensibility to open up, in that there will be newer narratives, there will be newer approaches, and we will be able to understand this problem in its roots, in its most deep way. I'm reminded of, like there's a concept called stolen generations, stolen generations in the American sense, where, not in the American, but Australian sense, when Britishers went to the Australian continent, and they declared that, the Captain Cook's announced terra nullius, that there is no one here, and it belongs to the white man. So what happened is that, all the Aboriginal population living there, all the original inhabitants there, they were kind of kept in the camps, in the detention camps, and they were made to forget their own language, their own ways of life, and they were made to learn the new language, English language. And I think that, and so that, to kind of create a new social setups, it was a very brutal thing. And that is called by these days, like in the last 2-3 decades, the Aboriginal writers are writing about that in ways like, that we sometimes don't actually understand. I think that it has become possible because of this sense of intersectionality, when we find that there are on the basis of caste, or like, if I may briefly tell you about, like, would you believe that there are thousands of narratives available, as a person, talking to researchers, helping them to kind of write their PhD thesis. I have seen that, I'm now receiving proposals on Dalit women facing problems, and how, they have a kind of vision for a better society, better nation, and a better world. Like, if I may give you a couple of names here, and you may do more research on that. And for example, one name is Baby Kamle, and the other name is Urmila Pawar. And like, when these narrative, when they, what happened with Baby Kamle, for example, like, she was an illiterate Dalit woman in Maharashtra who actively participated in the women's movement launched by Dr. Ambedkar in before the independence, and then after the independence. And she wrote about her experiences, small notes that she took, and she just write it, and she just threw it in the corner of a, like, a top almirah, or a box in her kitchen. And 20 years after, the family, the next generation, discovered those and compiled those. And if you read that narrative today, you will find that looks out to be, that appears to be a treatise on how feminism should evolve, how gender debate, how gender studies need to kind of go beyond, like, the jinx, the kind of complacency that has come in. If I may, like, talk about, like, this, that it is not just intersectional approach is not very helpful just for the sake of the empowerment and for their relief and for their rescue work. No, I'm saying it from a perspective that if we read about them, if we study them, if we kind of take into account their worldview, if we look at their, if we see this world from their eyes, I think it will help our narrative also. It will help, we will need to kind of create a very cohesive, very coherent, very complete sense of understanding, and what these marginalized, domesticated, exploited women are saying. It is very important from all sections. Now, I tell you, for example, when Baby Kamle thought of marrying her daughter, no, she never kind of forced her daughter for this intercaste thing. She said that you marry a boy of your choice. And she then, I'm little like, reminded of one more situation where, the husband was also, suffering because of a kidney problem. And then there was a requirement, and then she recognized that there is another person, there's a young person in the hospital, about like in their 20s. So she had to make a choice, and would you believe this, that she made her choice in the favor of the young boy, not the husband. So again, I think when we read, when we try to kind of go nearer to the narratives of these, in that sense, the is, intersections of the caste, class, gender, race, ethnicity, all the overlapping. I think it will help the larger debate. It will give us newer ways, newer perspectives, newer avenues to come out, of this kind of entrenched position where we find ourselves locked. So yes, as far as we need to take it forward, we need to find and we need to chart a newer territory. It is important. It is, I think this approach is also important in the sense that we do not actually, kind of decode in our minds, we kind of, more than 10,000 narratives in the last 30 years have come from these categories of women. 10,000 means like you can have a big, bulky library where you can have like, kind of all universities will have plenty of research material to work on, but we do not have then that framework ready. What Professor Crenshaw talks about, like in the Say Her Name complex, Say Her Name kind of problem, and the framing problem that she talks about, I think in our context, like maybe like her problem was like, this kind of gender and race problem, but here it is much more complex, and as a civilized society we need to handle that very sensitively. And I'm all for this approach where we take up, where we become more sensitive, and where we do whatever is required to as a policy mechanism, as a kind of grievance redressal, as a in our efforts to develop an academic body of writings for this. It is important that we take into account some important framework of this. When I also, like when I was reading, I thought that I'll suggest to you some important books about women, race, and class. This is about Angela Davis. She talks about in the kind of complex interlocking that takes place fighting Islam. Like Islam is about Susan Garland. Talks about this. The problem of in terms of in an interreligious framework, the women in a way she concludes that Muslim women face a lot many problems. We had in our situation, we had a big problem when it was announced that triple talaq is not valid, it is not legitimate, and so many other provisions simultaneously were taken. But then in the name of Muslim personal law and these other issues in the name of religion, we kind of brush it under the carpet in many ways. So it is important, and there will be opposition in the beginning, there will be a resistance, there will be kind of I think what happened in Shah Bano thing, like 30 years back, I mean, now it is the right time that we can talk about that, how the degrees of problem faced by women, is there, and that we need to be more alert. So when I'm discussing books with you, like Fading Stars, it is my queer disability history, and Corbett John talks about there in a big way about the other kind of combinations that we have as far as the gender intersectionality is concerned. And you should not miss the about the person who talked about, who kind of institutionalized, who kind of put in place the whole debate of intersectionality in the most academic. We were always aware of this, and there were other words about this, but as far as this debate and putting a kind of academic focus on this, demarginalizing the intersection of race and sex, a Black feminist critique of anti-discrimination doctrine, feminist theory, and anti-racist policy by Kimberly Crenshaw. This is very important. So this is how, you have these texts, and there are many more. I told you about the 10,000 plus narratives, and I'm claiming, I'm saying that all those 10,000, more than 10, needs to be studied, researched, and a kind of taken into account by the policy framework, and it is a translation problem, these and kind of publishing problem, and there are many other issues also about readership also. It is because maybe Kamle is like this, it was basically, in Marathi, my story, and then, it's basically, when Maya Pandit, my colleague from IFLU, the way when she translated it, about prison house, breaking free from the prison house, then it became a narrative in that sense. So we need to do lots of academic work, we need to do lots of social work, we need to do lots of policy work to kind of understand, interpret, and then resolve this issue. So I think that I would thank you, and I'll stop here, and we can, I know that there must be some issues, we can always engage with each other in terms of questions. I'll try to respond those in some meaningful way. I stop here. Thank you very much for your understanding and for being there during this time.
Thank you, sir, for your excellent presentation on the topic intersectionality. You analyzed the problem and suggested solutions to it, though it is a long and rough terrain, but we will succeed in sensitizing the society. Now, I would request the participants to please unmute yourself and ask questions if there are any, or you can write in the chat box also. Please.
So we request the participants, please come up with your queries. Please unmute yourself and ask the question to the resource person directly. We also welcome Dr. Kakkar sir for his benign presence during this session. Thank you, sir, for joining. Yes, there is one question from Subhadeep Mandal. Yes, Subhadeep Mandal, please introduce yourself and ask the question to the resource person directly. Please unmute.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Good evening, sir. Myself Subhadeep Mandal. I am from Pondicherry University. In there, I am pursuing IR. Sir, my question is regarding the Hathras case, as you mentioned. So, basically, Hathras case or the Delhi gang rape, these are both a heinous crime. But my question revolves around the publicity and the way the reaction has came after that. So, in my perspective, in Hathras case, the system was against the victim. And in the case of the Delhi gang rape, the sentiment that has been mobilized was in support of the victim. It was because in the Delhi gang rape case, the victim was from upper caste and the accused were from lower caste, and in the Hathras, the roles got reversed. So I need to know about the perspective on your perspective on that, sir.
All right. So yes, the whole point of discussing Nirbhaya and then Hathras was, in the way of, giving us a complete sense of the contrasting realities, that sometimes it happens that all systems of, governance, all systems of justice work in their favor. Nirbhaya's thing, again, it was a major thing and everyone came together. We need to be like little alert that we don't kind of criticize ourselves for that. But then if you look at Hathras, we find that, yes, there are issues, like if it is rural India, if it is kind of grassroots region, and if there is lack of education there in the region, if there is police reforms have not taken place there, and when police is hand in gloves with the criminals, so it was difficult there. The whole point that we are discussing it today, that realizing that in India, for example, we have issues of class, race, and religion, and so many other overlapping categories, and that can result into problems, more problems, and I mean, if you read narratives from the like Islam, when we are, I'm giving you this name, you will realize it. It is yes, you can kind of compare and contrast, and I tell you, if you read Dalit thinkers, Dalit ideologues, they say that media, judiciary, and all other institutions are anti-Dalit, because what they did in Nirbhaya, they don't actually, do just 10% of what, of the same in the other cases. So this is a problem, yes. And in that sense, the location, the socio-political, economical situation of that matters. And ideally, it should not count that much. Everyone, when we discuss equality before law, it means that any other factor will not matter. But I think we need to understand that things have become much better after Nirbhaya, though it was in that sense not a kind of caste atrocity, like the girl belonged to non-Dalit background. But I think what happened there will have benefits for all categories of women in some way. I think as far as the reporting of crime, about as far as there was a fund, though not much of that was used, 100 crore funds, and then Justice Verma guidelines, and that sensitivity and awareness, sensitization that has started from that point. I'm in that sense, we can kind of console ourselves that it will bring about a change in the larger scenario.
Okay. I take this opportunity to welcome Dr. G.P. Govil, Advisor Mates, and Dr. V.K. Bhatnagar, who is a professor in the Department of Law.
Asmita Jataria, she want to ask. Asmita, please unmute yourself.
Hi, sir. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, you are very much audible.
All right, thank you. Sir, thank you so much for your valuable inputs, first of all. Sir, my question lies in the field of the Dalit feminism. So I have recently started reading some articles regarding the Dalit feminism, and last week I read an article by Gopal Guru and Sharmila Reke, and the debate that keeps on going, that with the 1990s, the time period, the new phase in the feminism came as a Dalit feminism. Sir, there is no general question regarding it, but I want to know your views in an aspect that in the 1990s, we come across to see that within the feminism, there was a third wave of feminism. And in India, we come across to know with the Dalit feminism. But within the Dalit feminism, this is what I feel like, even if we talk about the Dalit feminism, there are again some strands within the Dalit feminism which are not being represented. What I mean to say is that there has been a mainstreaming in the Dalit feminism also. Firstly, I want to know your views on that. And secondly, sir, the Dalit feminism is currently in the 1990s, it's coming into the forefront. But again, we are not focusing on the tribal feminism or their issues, and with the, as you have just as you mentioned about the intersectionality with the caste, the gender. Similarly, we can also look into the gender and the sex, and we can talk about the queer community and their voices in the debate. I hope I was able to put forward my query.
Yes, it is important. I think that I was thinking of, when I have closely interacted with Gopal Guru Sahab and his seminal essay that Dalit women speak differently, and the way that there's an argument that there's a Dalit feminism. No, this is again, kind of academic sense of construction. I mean, it is emerging because, when it is, when we say Dalit in India, it is not about kind of very minority population. It is about a sizable population across India. So if there is a sense of rise of opinion, rise of awareness, it will automatically lead to a socio-political cultural sense of movement. Okay. So when you are saying that, yes, if you read about, if we have I think there's one more name about besides Gopal Guru. You said, something about that. What?
Sharmila Reke.
Yes, I think that is very important. Sharmila Reke, she's no more with us. She a couple of years back, she was on the very important point of a academic sense of formulation when she was saying that all feminist movement should embrace Ambedkar in a big way. And in her narrative, when she talks about against the madness of Manu, so she kind of touches upon those very important layers as to what causes this large scale sense of problem for Dalit women, and the religious roots of that. And then not if not religious, maybe cultural roots, and then the idea of social hierarchies that we have. And then I think that she talked about Dalit feminism in a big way, that if a movement, if a social movement is not grassroots based, then perhaps we will have major issues in achieving its larger social objectives, larger, maybe larger long-term objectives also. So yes, I mean, you are pointing out that within the Dalit there is a mainstreaming. Yes, it is always an issue and not much of tribal thing. I have tried to kind of discuss it with people. I feel that this tribal feminism movement is not required in the sense, because I find that there is much of kind of strong social positioning as far as women are concerned in the tribal setups. If you look at it, there are problems, there are issues, but as far as the major, like you can say that this completely subordinated, completely misrepresented and underrepresented situation is not all there in the tribal scheme of things. So you may say that, like, within Dalits there are kind of layers and complexities, and you can look at it. But I find that for the time being, if we have a kind of Dalit agenda in the mainstream mainstream feminist movement, I think that will give it lots of pace, lots of strength, lots of direction also in the due course. And yes, I mean, otherwise, like, it's about like sharing the leadership and what Gopal Guru says as far as Dalit women speaking differently, is one important critical ways of understanding that. And as a research team, as a group of conscientious teachers, we need to understand, we need to read more. I think it is more an outcome of rigorous, constant reading that we can understand more layers of this. I think yes, through your question, I'm getting this hint that maybe there is a requirement, there is a need of more churning, more sense of evolution within that concept of Dalit feminism. Yes, you are thinking in the right direction, and we will see much more kind of academic intervention. We'll see much more. You can say that when the disempowered will write more, then there will be, we cannot stop that. We cannot, whatever we may try, it will automatically, or it will, maybe it is a matter of time only that it will emerge, and it will emerge very powerfully. So yes, I'm looking forward to that. And yes, that those narratives, yes, and if possible, like, we need to look at this. So if it is interdisciplinary, if it is intersectional, it is better.
Sir, we have one more question by Sumit. He is asking, did British invent caste system in India?
Did British invent caste system?
Caste system in India.
This is I mean, I am not the authority to answer this, but I can say that whatever structures were there, during British rule, there was a sense of solidity given to those structures. So I mean, it is not perhaps right to say that they invented, but I think that because they were very good at systematizing, like the way they translated. So whatever knowledge that we as a part of their strategy, if you look at Oriental School, if you look at Asiatic Society, they got every text of ours translated. Then in the same way, they try to kind of, there is one text, by Briggs, W.G. Briggs, the Chamars, So Briggs talks about, and he collects anthropological data and everything, puts together in a narrative. So it is not, completely true to say that they invented, but yes, they put everything in a legible order, It is like, and you'll find that during when Macaulay was introducing in 1930s, 30s and 40s, there was a big thing that the education, mode of education. And I remember that there were people like, a person from a or you can say a person from a Dalit background wrote an essay. It was, I mean, you may read it. It is there, documented that a person, a student in the 10th class wrote an essay about the problems of the Indian system, and it was a response to some essay competition, and he won the first prize. And there were forces, social forces, which represented against that. How can a person not belonging to one particular section be rewarded like that? So there was a huge sense of exchange and representation and debate. So yes, but like Britishers, I find that if if you read Ambedkar, for example, Ambedkar always used to say that Britishers came late and left early. So he was of the other opinion. I'm giving you a kind of picture from both sides. So one argument is this, that because they were so, they started following it, and they had those regiments, and they documented everything that was there as a social practice. So perhaps it was much more visible to us. Perhaps it was much more structured and solidified. But then, Ambedkar says, and many other people say that no, it is not of the British. No, it was British tried to demolish that in some way, and yes, just like that.
Sir, we have one more question from Dr. Geeta. She is saying, is there any international law preventing discrimination, particularly caste?
Okay.
Is there any international law preventing discrimination?
No, I think this is the right question. Like, there were huge, if you go back, there's reference in this, there's a Durban conference about, I think 20 years back, it happened, where in the Durban conference, what happened, that in the divisive category, socially divisive category, it was there, class and race was there a factor, gender was there a factor. So for the first time, caste was recognized as a thing, and UN celebrates this original inhabitants day, People's Day. There are various you can say conventions in the name of human rights, in the name of people not refugee refugee protection rights, UNHCR. You have, yes, there are many provisions. If it is if one country is not protecting the rights, there are UN sends special rapporteurs also to kind of safeguard the rights of the discriminated people. It has happened in so many places. And UN has sent people rapporteurs for this issue also. So yes, there are international provisions available under UN, and many state many governments at the international level, they also protect. So you will find that in UK and US, people going and fighting it out to kind of claim the denied social space. So it has happened. There are legal provisions, and I think it will with the rise of awareness in the social situation, I think it will become more visible and will have more cases available for our public reference in the future.
Sir, now we have a question from Mimansa. Mimansa, please unmute and ask.
Sir, I'm a Mansa, law student from NAMES. Sir, my question is a follow-up question. That was the first question. Sir, basically, when we talk about the Nirbhaya case, then we could see that the governing body or the working body behind that case was working very effectively. Like DCP Chaya could trace the people behind that act. But when we go to the Hathras case, I would like to ask you the question that whether it is the governing body behind that case, or is it the caste that has an upper hand, or is it the contribution of both of the factors together that basically influence that there is that the justice provided in those rural areas is decreasing?
Okay. You have a right question, and I'm glad that you are, asking a question is very important. And if something has been asked previously and you raise it further, this is even more important. See, my dear friend, it is that a man is a social animal. And whatever we do, we think, whatever we contemplate is an outcome of our social situation.
Yes.
And we are evolving, kind of setup. We evolve. So when you ask me about governance, is it, are we, seeing too much in Hathras case and employing the caste lens too much? This is something I understand of your question. Is it not simply a governance question? Yes, it is like that. And if I have given you those cases, I have given you Bhavri Devi, I have given you K. Sumitra, I have given you where, our law, our legal agencies, be it police, be it lawyers, be it judges, there have been issues in interpreting, analyzing, and in judging the situation, and it is not very, very straight all the time. It is complex. It is sometimes it needs to be corrected. And what happened in Hathras is you see, it is because of the situation. You may say that the socio-political, cultural atmosphere of that state is, because you find that there is a leadership there, where a woman leadership belonging to a Dalit community, she was there and she made a big, kind of fuss about it. So would you, it is like, I don't know what kind of society we live in sometimes. You'll find that if Mayawati comes, there will be a less number of atrocities. If she's not there, there will be more cases against women. So we have to kind of broaden our understanding on Hathras, and we have to see that our socio-political, cultural scenario, which is riddled with so many issues, we are not living together like a society. I'm sorry, but we need to go beyond this. That when we have to in terms of our education, the kind of school setups we have, the kind of interface that takes place between two individuals and groups is limited. We don't know, we don't know enough about each other. We are governed by prejudices and biases and some stereotypes which are generally untrue, not true. So this is something that I feel that when we are looking at any case, Hathras, and I mean, if you know about caste thing, there are multiple cases. There's Dulina, Mirchpur, Gohana, and many cases. So it is basically, you know, if there is in the state, if the situation is politically very, you know, active, if politically there are forces, kind of all, of all interests, of all social combinations, then it will be a different story. Otherwise, we need to do much more to look like truly egalitarian society. We are still not one. When we say we the people of India, we need to do so much of kind of probing, self-analysis, and self-critique also. And we need to do much more. Like, I tell you, like in the I was reading that one matrimonial website. They claim that now we don't talk about the physical characteristics of a persons searching for prospective partners on the website. They don't mention what is the height, what is the weight, and these physical aspects, but they will still talk about caste in that sense. And you'll find that there are areas meant for one particular social community, and then there are areas, and sometimes there is no intermixing possible. And so this is an issue. I'm very hopeful that in 21st century it will change. There are, I mean, every time you kind of begin to nurture this sense of positivity and this optimism, there is something comes and gives you a reality check. But we should remain positive, and at an individual level, this is a built up of a very long time. I mean, it may not change so very suddenly and abruptly. So we'll have to do our individual and collective contribution to be able to break the status quo.
Sir, we have one more question from Sumit. He is asking, is Western culture responsible for gender and domestic violence? Is Western culture responsible for gender and domestic violence in India?
Well, Anuradha ma'am, I hope you will understand this. This is a too simple, too straight a question. I mean, may I say that no culture is singularly possible. Singularly possible. We all come we live in a gutter and we add to it. And sometimes we make it. It is easier. It is convenient. It is sometimes ego satisfying that it has come from there. I think that. This north south or this east and west debate has to be put to rest. If we are very serious to put an end to the gender issues, they have done so much of work to make lives better for their women. I find that we do not have a realistic sense of understanding of how, maybe it's generally through films and something else. They have their own problems, but with their social setup, with their social institutions, they have managed to prepare a better foundation, a better ground for their gender identities. Again, it is an issue. I mean, we can constantly fight about it. We can endlessly, kind of argue about it, but it will hardly help if we attribute, any region for this, that they have done it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
At least we have started the conversation. I think we are in the right direction.
Of course, yes.
So any other question, please post.
And Radha ma'am, please propose vote of thanks to Professor Mehra.
So a very good evening to everyone present here. It is my pleasure to thank you all for attending the 8th module of the course and making it a grand success. A special thank to the resource person of today, Professor Dr. Parmod Mehra, for bringing out the problem of intersectionality faced by Dalit women, caste-based violence, denial of quick justice to Dalit women. The lower caste of a woman makes her more vulnerable to violence and sex. The horrifying combination of gender, activity, and caste is very harmful to the society. The Bhamri Devi case, Hathras case, and Badaयूं case show that still a lot is to be done in this field. I express my sincere gratitude to Professor Dr. G.P. Govind, advisor mates, Dr. Naresh Kakkar, advisor mates, and Dr. V.K. Bhatnagar, Professor, Department of Law, MEMS, for gracing the occasion. I thank the participants for their presence, the students and staff of MEMS, the gender club members, the technical team, and the support staff deserve special thanks for making this module 8 a success. Thank you once again.
Time for a group photo. Time for a group photo. I request all the participants, please switch on your camera for group photo. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. There is one comment here where I think Shubhadeep Mandal is saying when Brahmin woman is typed in Google, the first suggestion that pops up is a picture of a beautiful woman and then Dalit woman. It is because it is a peril of a like artificial intelligence or machine learning driven framework. Okay, don't get too much annoyed with that. It is when we as like, thoughtful, human-minded people will, work, it will be better. It is, these days, we are increasingly being governed by the machine learning frameworks. And if we like something, we will get a narrative of that kind only, and it will line up like that. So we need to guard ourselves against that. Shubhadeep Mandal, it is good that you are aware, alert, and sensitive to this, and we will collectively put a check to that.
Thank you very much, Professor Parmod, for the 2 sessions. Thank you very much for gracing the occasion and sharing knowledge with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
कक्कड़ साहब नमस्कार। आवाज जा रही नहीं आ रही। कक्कड़ साहब नमस्कार।